given the fact that we have contributed, the 1860 census said there was about almost 7,000 slaves in 1860. So clearly we moved from that, as Alvin referenced, from the plantation into the community in general, and took whatever jobs were available, but we worked hard and contributed to those owners' well-being and growth. And look at us today,
And certainly, ditto on what Mr. Thibodeau has said. Certainly, from a labor standpoint, we've had that impact on it in terms of building and crafting this place. There's no doubt about it. But we haven't really been a benefactor thereof as it relates to the labor that we put out.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, as it relates to that, we have to realize, as far as food is concerned, certainly that's where African American taps into. There's no doubt about it. But still yet, understanding that as far as the African American community or the Black community benefiting from that, that's been very lax in a sense. But as far as the culture is concerned, in terms of food, there's no doubt about it. We have had a serious impact in that area. I mean, from gumbo to cornbread. I mean, you just take, for example, a gumbo. We think about a gumbo and how did that come about? So when you think about that gumbo, you're talking about a slave person or a Black person during that time getting the scrap from the tables, okay? Getting the scrap from the tables and whatever they had and just putting all that stuff together, and say, look, we put all that together and now we got a mess here, and that mess today they call a gumbo. Things have evolved. You take prime example, have evolved to the point that, if you go back, you wouldn't have a Wayne Thibodeau and Albert Tillman sitting here and you interviewing us. So it's no doubt about it, we have evolved. And not only that, is having individuals such as myself and Mr. Thibodeau, Alonda Williams, John Navy, Carl Hardin, Greg Hardin, all those African Americans that's now served on the various councils in this parish. So certainly we've come a long ways, there's no doubt about it, but we can't underscore the fact that we have a long way to go, but we definitely came a long ways. Well, you take, for example, the seafood industry. When you look back at that in 1872 to 1873 or 74, when you had a Joseph Dupart, okay, which happened to be the first African-American to serve as mayor of the city. One of the things you'll find under his administration was the first seafood plant, and that goes back to being on our Barrow Street. So certainly that contribution and impact that the African American have had in that industry has been impeccable.
And you come from, say, 1850 or 1860, or you come from 1822, obviously evolution from whatever the major commerce was then during those times, and obviously with those 7,000 or so slaves. And then we moved on to the 70s, where oil and gas became a big deal in Terrebonne, and we were able to to assimilate into that industry and get jobs, and sometimes promoted to decision-making positions. And probably after oil and gas sort of stumbled a little bit in the 80s and it went bust, we realized that we needed to do something else. Probably the chamber was involved in that, and expand our reach beyond the oil and gas. And I think we've done some of that. Retail has kind of moved in a little broader, with food and eateries and that kind of stuff. I really would like to see the chamber be more proactive in embracing the Black-owned businesses in the community. Historically, has been hard for us to get credit and financing, and these ideas have been slow to evolve and slow to be financed, and on and on and on. So I think as we look forward, the chamber probably can play a greater role in terms of maybe giving information or having workshops with the intent to penetrate the Black community, to let them know that these are some of the models we have and these are some of the things that can be done. And we will ensure willingness to kind of work along with some of the organizations like the NAACP and the other organizations to help, to help us continue to grow as a single community and not necessarily a separated community.
Well, I don't know how much of an influence we've had on the economics in the parish, merely because of the fact that when we have to look back, especially at the 1800s, when we look back at that and moving forward, myself, moving off the local plantation in the early 70s, okay? So when you look at that and keep that in perspective and try to figure out what impact we have had on the economy, it haven't really been that much, to be honest with you. Because when you look at the average businesses in the parish at this time, you're talking 98% or better of the businesses are non-black. So we have a lot yet to, move forward on in terms of having our impact on that economy. But we're moving forward to it. We're certainly moving forward to it. You take, like, for examples, a Charlie Moore, for example, one of those individuals that's moving forward in the oil field industrial, just tapping into it. But still, yet we have a long way to go, because you got to also realize, with the 110 plus plantations that we've had in this parish, our people dispersed from those plantations into the city proper with very little or no education. So
The impact our labor has had in terms of contributing to the welfare and the growth of Terrebonne. So I would think the impact has been substantial.
Well, what I would like to add to kind of close the gap, okay? To kind of close the gap, I think one of the things that the chamber could do, help spearhead, is to have a huge roundtable discussion as it relates to race. Because that's a discussion that just haven't been had over the years, and it needs to be. Because we're here today trying to figure out how we can embrace the future and close that gap. But I think that serious conversation as it relates to race needs to be had. PBS Pinchback, Pitney Burton Stewart Pinchback, served as the only African American to serve as governor for the great state of Louisiana.